Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Seventh Man podcast. I'm Will Beverina. I run Dimer2K.com and write about the NBA 2K League.
And I am Josiah, otherwise known as AJ113OS, and I cover the NBA 2K League for TSN and for Operation Sports.
We're back for episode 6. You can check out all of our previous episodes on the YouTube channel. As always, we want to thank everyone who has listened to any of the episodes so far, and thank you if you're listening right now to this episode, of course. Support, no matter how big or small, is always appreciated. I'm going to be trying to get this week's episode on some different platforms. So if you're listening to this on iTunes right now or anything other than YouTube, then I was successful. And if not, then I failed. So I'm sorry about that. But we're going to try to get it out on something other than YouTube. And we'll see how it goes this week. But let's talk about week 9. The ticket is over, and now we're getting into the home stretch of the playoff race, final 4 weeks of the regular season. Now, week 9 was a really interesting one, as most weeks in this league are, but this one, wow, man, a lot going on, especially with the playoffs so close, and the playoff picture is starting to get just a little bit clearer. It's still pretty muddy, but we're getting there. Lots of big games this week, but let's talk about 2 in particular, starting with Heat Check Gaming versus 76ers Gaming. And Heat Check Gaming won this one 86-71. Hot shot with a league record 54 points on the shot creating slasher. And this was an ugly one for 76ers Gaming. What do you see in this game, Josiah?
Two immediate thoughts on this one, as you and I discussed a little bit beforehand. At this point, the highest point total seems to really just be which shot creating slashers got it going the most. So I don't really want to speak to that yet, but I will say that the 76ers look just unsettled. Radiant had a miserable shooting performance on the night, finishing 2 for 11 and only 33% behind the arc. Feast had a great game, but they were really just relegated to Radiant Feast pick and rolls. The Heat took away everything else. I'm not really sure why they switched up Nudini and ZDS. Taking ZDS off the pure sharp, putting him at the small forward, and putting Nudini on the pure sharp at shooting guard. I wasn't really sure why they did that. I understood the motives behind putting Steez at power forward, to try and get him to stop Hotshot. I can't remember being displeased with Feast's defending, so I'm not really sure, if that was necessarily the best move. Though of course Feast had he feasted, but he was at the table alone. The rest of the 76ers were out in the cold, and this is a tough loss for them. It's dropped them to lower in the standings than they've ever been, it seems. And is this the time they start asking questions? I think I mentioned last week this is the time they start to go through adversity for the first time ever, and they still haven't responded to that. And how they do respond will absolutely determine the future for them the rest of the season and in the playoffs.
You said a lot of things there that I also wanted to talk about. The first being how the 76ers look unsettled. In that first quarter alone, I just looking at their reactions to what was going on, because Heat Check was just scoring on seemingly every single possession. And I don't want to say the 76ers look frustrated. Maybe that's too strong of a word, but they looked like flustered really early on, and you could tell with the form, the recent form of this team, having only one win since the new patch. Maybe they were kind of like teetering on the edge, and you could see like another bad quarter, and maybe they've, I don't know, stopped believing themselves a bit, maybe lost some confidence, which isn't a good thing going into the final few weeks of the season for sure. And you talked about Feast and Steez switching. And I noticed that too. And I was like, Well, I guess they're switching Steez obviously to cover Hot Shot, but I was like, why though? Like Feast, as far as I know, seems to be a pretty good defender, but who knows what they were practicing and what they saw maybe in some scrimmages or something. But I mean, this was just and it obviously didn't work out because Steez absolutely could not stop Hotshot. Hotshot was doing whatever he wanted. He shot 25 for 34, which is just a ridiculous stat line in itself, scoring 54 points, obviously. Uh, Steez couldn't stop him at the rim, and Hotshot was popping a lot of mid-rangers. And, ugly game for the 76ers.
Yeah, the Heat also spaced the floor early, which just, completely shredded any hope the 76ers had of stopping Hotshot. They had to stay home on shooters. Uh, the Heat went about 6 for 7 um, from beyond the arc. But it just, a man going downhill is very difficult to be stopped. Sorry, that is a 6 for 8 from 3 point. Let me clarify that.
Yeah.
But it is very, very hard to stop a shot creating slasher. I think there are ways to limit him. I think there, which we can get into in a little bit. But one thing I want to say before I forget is that, the 76ers, when they win, and when most teams, like most teams, but the 76ers especially, since they have a particular brand of basketball, particular style, when they dictate the play and the game flow, they win. And it helps for them that, part of their dictation involves shooting 3 pointers. A three is always better than a two. But the 76ers have not been dictating the gameplay since the patch. And I think that goes hand in hand with, I love to hark on a team's identity and integrity. And, the patch and their play and their roster changes since the patch have just seemed to chip away at those two eyes, and in consequence, it has chipped away at their ability to dictate the game. And dictating the game in part is a lot of is trash talking that can definitely play into it. But on the court, this was a game all about hot shot downtown. You know, I want to call him like Jerome Bettis the bus. He was just taking the bus all the way to the hoop, and there wasn't anything Steeds could do to stop him. I agree. I don't think I'm not sure that taking Feast off him would have been a terror. Would have been. I'm getting messed up here, but I think Feast would have done a perfectly good job. I don't think he could have done much worse. Giving up 54 points, by Steez is hardly the way to go. But just about dictating the game, the 76ers have not done that well since the patch, and they most certainly did not do this in a really egregious loss.
Yeah, speaking about dictating the play, this game was the perfect example of them not doing that, where the old 76ers, you know, were three-point shooting fiends and they love to get out in transition. Well, that's what Heat Check was doing to this team. The early going of this game, Heat Check was getting out in transition, getting out on the fast breaks. Majestic shot 4 or 5 from three. Like you said, 6 of 8 in total for Heat Check. 76ers shot 7 of 13, which is fine, but the biggest problem was that Radiant wasn't going at all. And he had 19 assists, which is of course great, but this this team, I guess, I don't know, he shot 2 of 11 from the field, which is of course unacceptable, but it, so much of this 76ers system depends on getting him going, and you need him to score so that he can draw in the defenders when he drives to the rim and get it and kick it out to his shooters and everything. Like you mentioned with the Nudini and ZDS switch, I wasn't quite sure why that happened either. I don't really think that was necessary. Again, maybe they saw something in practice, but man, it's I don't know. This was like it, maybe it's just this game in particular, or just this week in particular, but this seemed to be the the I don't know, I'm trying to find a way to say this. This was the only like shot creating slasher we kind of saw dominate like this. Authentic African had a great game, but um y- I don't know.
This was peak shot creating slasher
Yeah,
scoring.
and I guess I worded that wrong in that, Boo Painter obviously had a great game, but the Wizards still lost. So this was, I don't know. I guess I don't know what the hell I'm saying, Josiah. I had
I'll
like
I'll I'll,
something in
I'll
my
jump
head.
in for you. I'll
Okay.
jump in for you. Um, I may have tweeted this out. I have spent too much time on Twitter recently, but my problem with how powerful the shot creating slasher is as following. In the NBA, there are only a select, scant few players who just seem to be miraculous and exceed and supersede the boundaries of what is possible. You know, LeBron, KD, Steph, Anthony Davis, those kind of guys. You know, Steph, if he takes a 3-pointer, you figure it's going in. You know, LeBron can't be stopped driving downhill. KD, man, it just hits those pull ups from the elbow, from everywhere in the mid range. It's you throw your remote at the TV if you were a Cavs fan. But here, you know, the shot creating slasher, it's right. It's just written into the game. That kind of dominance is absolutely written into the game. You hear Dirk and Scott saying, "All right, yeah, if you're a sharp rim protector guarding the shot creating slasher, you know you're going to give up 30." And that's not how it should be, in my opinion. In a game where teams average 70-ish points a game, it's kind of ridiculous for one player to always consistently be putting up 35 points. And just the fact that it's written in, it's absolutely unstoppable. Again, it can be limited, but limiting it only goes so far. And so it takes some of the incredible nature of those select few in the NBA who absolutely step over the boundaries of what seems possible. Here, the boundaries are very lax. They're written in, and you can get to them and score 40 points along the way. So that's my personal issue with it. It's not fun to watch for me. I much rather watch teams who are running plays. I think plays are more effective in the long run. I think teams will start to come to agree with me. But man, it's tough to see, and it's not to besmirch or demean any of the achievements that these guys have recorded. It's not about that at all. But it's in the game. You could take any player, put them at that build, give them the ball, give them that usage rate, and they're putting up ridiculous numbers. And that's what's disappointing to me.
Yeah, we agree on this with I don't know. I tweeted out the shot creating slashers is boring. It's boring to watch, even when you're watching a guy score 54 points. I mean, I don't really want to watch someone, sit in the mid range and try to bait their defender into jumping or just pulling up from mid range 35 times a game. It's just not fun. I want to see plays. I want to see some team ball. And again, like you said, not to like diminish the accomplishments of what these guys are doing, because you and I couldn't go out there and score 54 points in a game on the shot creating slasher, right, against
Oh
these
no,
guys.
I meant any guy in the league.
Right,
And
yeah.
yeah, no, not certainly neither of us. And frankly, Boo Painter was putting up incredible numbers, in the same sort of style, but on a different build. So there are ways to dominate in this league, but
Yeah, it's just I don't know. You look at like the top 3 scorers right now in the league, and it's Hood, Boo, and Hotshot now. And it's like what's the, you know, what's the common thread there? Well, shot creating slasher. And they all haven't been on the shot creating slasher for the entire season, but it just takes one game for you to get over like 25 points a game on the season. So, um, worked here for Heat Check Gaming, which I guess is what I was trying to say earlier when the words failed me. But this was it kind of only worked for Heat Check Gaming this week, which makes me wonder if this was just kind of a fluke week and we're not going to see that shot creating slasher as much, or we are still going to see the shot creating slasher. I mean, and it's still going to dominate, or maybe teams are starting to figure it out a bit. Who knows? Obviously, the 76ers couldn't figure it out.
Yeah, that's for darn sure. I can't talk about this shot creating slasher anymore. Let's talk about another point guard who had an atrocious shooting night, and his team got absolutely blown out of the water by a team with more of an identity.
And that point guard you're talking about, of course, is Dimes. And Dimes and the Mavs did not have a good week 9, Josiah. First loss to Grizz Gaming early on Saturday. That was the first game on Saturday, I believe. And then they got absolutely, dominated by Blazer 5. So uh, last week we were talking about matchups to look forward to. And I picked this Blazer 5 and Mavs Gaming game. And I was like, maybe it doesn't have as many playoff implications as other games. Well, turns out this was pretty dang important to the playoffs because the Mavs, after losing to the Grizz, were 5-5. And then after losing to Blazer 5, they're now 5-6. And now the playoff picture. Mavs Gaming has lost 4 games in a row, Josiah. They were 5-2. And they're now 5-6 out of the playoffs as it currently stands. 91-68, the final score between Blazer 5 Gaming and Mavs Gaming. What happened this game?
You know exactly what I'm about to say here. Identity and integrity. This I think was a holdover from their loss to Grizz Gaming, in which Dimes was back on the shot creating slasher, scoring 41 points, nearly putting up a triple double, and they lost to a team that they as a proud NBA 2K League team are probably embarrassed to lose to, and the Grizz are a far better team than they gave them credit for. And you know what? I think AuthenticAfrican might just be a better player than Dimes at the shot creating slasher.
Wow. Oh, okay. Okay.
Well, let's not get too crazy here, but you know
All right.
what? You know what though? AuthenticAfrican, he was doing it at point guard. He was doing it point guard. He was doing it with worse teammates. You know
You're
who
right.
was guarding Dimes for a solid chunks of the game? AuthenticAfrican. You know who never guarded AuthenticAfrican? Say it. Say it.
Was it
Dimes.
Dimes?
It was Dimes. And you know what? AuthenticAfrican got some stops too. He forced some turnovers, and his team came out with the win. And then, okay, we're not talking about that one. We're going back
No,
to the
we're
one
not.
where the Mavs, they got it back to the usual, right? They've got Dimes at point guard. They've got Dave Fry, back as a big man, and what, they started to get Seam involved for the first time in a while, and it went very very well in the first half. This game, this was a this was like 50-45 Blazer 5 at one point. And Seam was doing really well, and I know he started to cool down in the third and fourth, but he was doing really well. And Dimes had an absolutely atrocious shooting performance, going 3 for 12, 1 for 6 from beyond the arc, only 7 assists. It's not going to get it done. It's
Nope.
not going to get it done at all. And we're talking about Blazer 5 here, who are a damn good team and who are probably the best team in terms of identity and integrity. And hats off to Walnut, hats off to Mama. Blazer 5 rotated well on defense. They got out in transition. Walnut cleaned up everything on the boards. And, a common thread throughout the Mavs 2 games was that they absolutely couldn't stop themselves from pinching down into the paint. And, you would see if Authentic was down there, there'd be 4 guys around him. And Authentic is good enough to find guys, one of the many guys who are open and get them the ball. And they hit some shots. And here, an absolute descent onto Walnut, and he still destroyed him. He still destroyed him. But, we can set aside the 13 for 15 shooting performance along with the 24 rebounds. Mama got back to his his normal great form, talking trash, putting up huge numbers. The pure sharps hit a lot of shots. They ran some nasty plays against the Mavs, and it was an absolute. They fell apart. The Mavs just fell apart in the second half, and that's the theme for their season too. They've just fallen apart. They were 5-2. This is a good team. This is an incredibly talented team. They've just
Yeah.
fallen apart.
Well, you said they fell apart in the second half. They didn't even fall apart until like the last couple minutes of the third quarter.
Right.
It was like it was 40-40 at one point, I think. And then like by the end of the third quarter it was a 12-point lead for Blazer 5. So it just kind of came out of nowhere, I guess. And uh, Blazer 5, we talked about last week whether they should be worried after going out in the first round at the ticket. I think this game answered whether they should be worried or anyone should doubt them at all. Clearly, no one should doubt Blazer 5. 91 points is a lot of points in this league, Josiah. And I mean, I think the big difference was the last few weeks we've talked about them struggling a bit, and we always mentioned how like they didn't really have kind of the same energy that they used to have early in the season. From the very get-go of this game against Mavs Gaming, Mama was talking, he was getting up, he was getting loud. Especially Blazer 5 shot out to like an 8-0 lead. So they were talking all game. For the first time we've seen in a few weeks now, I would say, where they actually look like they wanted to be there and they actually look like they wanted to win. Especially in the fourth quarter, Mama was really going off, asking why Dimes was drafted first overall. Why was he drafted at point guard, which is a hell of a thing to say to Dimes himself, and yelling at Seam to cover Grant Monster, who went 4 for 5 from three, and who I think is a top 2 sharp in the game right now. But I mean, Mama dominated the first half. Walnut came in the second half and really showed out. This was, I mean, wow. It's really disappointing for this Mavs gaming team with all the hype they had, losing 4 in a row. It's I don't know, man. They're on the outside looking in, and I guess I gotta give you credit. You said you weren't sold on Mavs Gaming, and here they are at 5-6, sitting at 10th right now, tied in record with Raptors and Grizz Gaming. So there you go.
Yeah. Identity, integrity, important. Um, yeah. I mean, your pure sharp ranking sort of stuck in my head, but I don't want to go down that train because I think we're gonna disagree a bit on that. I
Oh,
think I
okay.
think no, I think Grant's fantastic, but I still have a couple people I'd rank, top two. I'd say Grant's probably top four. Um,
Okay.
but he is arguably the most consistent. I will say that. I think Seam he can go off for more, but he's certainly not as consistent. Not solely through a fault of his own, but whatever. Let's keep bashing on the Mavs. Um,
Yeah.
it's so I yeah I want to yell at certain things, and I have yelled at certain things. Um, but this was an absolute smackdown. And you were absolutely right about the early trash talking. They got up early, both literally and figuratively. You know, early lead, up out of their seats. They just had a great shooting performance. The Mavs did not have a great shooting performance. Um, I thought. I mean, I understand they're trying to go back to what had worked for them. Are we sold on Hazza? He got into the starting lineup, but who do you like? Take two from JLB, Hazza, and Devillon. I feel like that's been, you know, they haven't really been certain about two out of those three, and kind of going back and forth. That's not their biggest problem right now, but you want contributions from everyone, as these Blazers have shown, and other teams have shown. So, which two are the right fit there?
I was actually thinking about this because I was a little bit surprised that they both decided to go back to, their more traditional lineup with Dimes at point guard and Dayfry at center, while at the same time keeping Hazza in. And Hazza has been, he has been bad by any stretch of the imagination, but when they were rolling, it was with Devillon and Ball Like Seam, and Ball Like Seam was kind of the guy who he wasn't quite a cone. He would attack, right? And he still does that. He would attack, he would get out in transition, and Devillon was the true cone, but he would hit a lot. Something like 70% he was shooting the first 3 weeks of the season or something from three. So I've said this a couple times tonight already, but we don't see what goes on in practice and everything, and what happens in scrims and boot camps. So maybe I can't imagine like Devillon has fallen off so much that you can't give him another run, uh, especially with the team now currently on a 4-game losing streak. I think you got to switch something up just a little bit. You don't need to go full shot creating slasher 5 out, but maybe just a little bit of a tweak. Go back to Devillon, go back to what was working pre-patch. I think it can work again post-patch, especially with the increased shooting across the board. So I think they should go back to Devillon and Ball Like Seam. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just trying to think. It's interesting because JLB said for a while. I'm just trying to think of how many teams sat their third round picks or have sat their third round picks for an extended period of time. Obviously one team is sideline their first rounder. Trying to think about second rounders and third rounders. It's just too tired at the moment to really rack my brains for it. But you know, some teams, the Raptors, for example, the Raptors just finally put back Yusuf Scarbs into the lineup at a pure sharp at shooting guard, which worked out perfectly well. And he hadn't
Yeah.
played anything but center the entire year, and he was a third round pick, but it worked. And so I would say the Raptors are a team, they can get quality contributions from everyone. I don't know what's up with the Mavs in that regard. Um, yeah, no, it's an open ended question. I don't think either of us can give the right answer. But this is important time now. They don't have a lot of slack. They have to win 3 games to make the playoffs, pretty much. So they should really figure out which of those two guys are the ones who should be starting.
Yeah, not a lot of time left. So real surprising at this point in the season to see Mavs Gaming at 5-6 and sitting among the likes of Raptors Uprising, who were what 1-5 to start the season.
Yeah, they had a miserable schedule though.
Yeah, anything can happen in this league.
Yep,
is
that's
all
for
that
sure.
tells you.
That's for
Especially, I
sure.
mean, even as well, sitting with the same record as Grizz Gaming right now, who plenty of people said weren't going to win a single game this season. So
I pity the fool. Pity the fool indeed.
yeah, it makes you
Um,
wonder why that guy on the Grizz, who definitely should have been a first round pick,
it,
hasn't had his name thrown around in the MVP discussion,
it
huh?
really makes you wonder. Yep.
Really makes you
It
think,
really makes you
Josiah.
think a little bit. And I mean, he's the most versatile player in the league.
He is.
But let's set aside his incredible scoring and passing contributions. He is the most versatile player in the entire league. Period. Full stop. So yeah,
We're talking about Authentic African, by the way,
yeah.
if
In
you didn't
case
pick up on that.
that wasn't clear, that should
Guy
be.
who is up there in the top 5 in scoring, doesn't have as good of a team around him as a certain first overall pick.
Ooh,
and has his team with the same record.
I thought I was
And
going to be the only one bashing on Dimes this podcast. Authentic has played center and power forward incredibly well. He was the one bright spot early in the season as a big man. They moved up the point guard. He performed incredibly well. Double doubles. This time, points and assists rather than points and rebounds. They move him to the shot creating slasher. Posts insane numbers. Defends dimes. Gets some stops at times. So yeah, the Grizz are a solid team, and it's they and the Magic definitely had some aspersions cast upon them early on, um, by myself included. I will admit it. Yes, the balance has been restored, but to be fair, I did say that I had I was sold on the Magic again after they came back to beat the Jazz. But let's not dwell on the past. Let's dwell. Let's dwell. Let's try and dwell on the future here.
well, I do want to go in the past a bit again because when we did like a pre-draft thing, we kind of asked ourselves some questions and answered them, and one of them was, will the draft be I guess, the biggest determination of how well teams will do in the season? And I don't quite remember what you said. I don't think you said that it was, but mine was in-season adjustments and coaching. And the Grizz and Magic made those adjustments, and here they are, a combined 11 wins after many said they wouldn't win a single game. So,
And as I recall correctly, in that we also discussed, which spot in the draft would you rather have? Would you rather have the 1 and 34? Would you rather have the 17 and 18? And
yeah.
the 15 and 20 look great. The 16 and 19 looks really good. The 17 and 18 looks terrible. But the one and 34 is not looking as great as it once did. Nor is the 3 and 32, if my math is right. Man,
Well,
clearly you want to draft in the middle.
well, it depends, in a perfect world where everyone gets drafted exactly where they should be, as in, you know, Authentic African doesn't go second round, ZDS doesn't go sixth round. They go much higher like they should have.
King Cam, that
King
that
Cam.
man, that man has been phenomenal.
Yeah, because, talking about that question 1 and 34 or 17 and 18, if things had gone like as they did the first 16 picks, the Warriors could have Authentic African and Shump or Boo Painter right now, which wouldn't be too bad.
They could have one of those guys in Mama.
Yeah,
Also, what the heck
exactly.
was up with the Warriors not starting Vert?
I don't know. No idea.
I mean,
But
why?
it's
They
it
almost won. Fine. The Warriors have
yeah.
not lost the game by more than they haven't won or lost the game by more than 7 points since May. But so
Wow.
they hang tight. But I mean, why sit your best player?
No idea.
I don't get it. I don't get
No
it at all.
idea.
But
Well, I mean, they were what, 2 and 7 going into this week.
yeah,
They knew it was over.
right.
So I guess you just try some things, see what you got on that roster, start making plans for season 2. They're not officially out, I don't think,
Not technically. They're not
but
technically eliminated, but they're eliminated.
we know. We all know.
Yeah, they're done. They're pretty well done.
Should we talk about the rest of week 9 real quick?
Yeah, let's do it.
Speaking of the Warriors, first game of the week against Cavs Legion. Cavs Legion getting the win 61-57.
Cavs ran some plays, finally worked out, and just another terrible loss for the Warriors. They had it in their grasps, and then just a big block. The Cavs seem to win a lot of games on big blocks, and as I mentioned, Cavs beat the Warriors by 4 points in an important game on the strength of a block. I've heard that one before.
No comment on that. I don't like LeBron. Maybe I shouldn't say
What?
that on this
Oh
podcast.
boy, oh
All
boy.
right.
That's for a future time.
Yeah. I'm a Wizards fan, Josiah,
I'm
so
a Raptors fan.
I'm allowed to not like LeBron. You're allowed to not like LeBron.
I have every right to despise LeBron.
I mean, Crab Dribble was the original. I don't like LeBron because of what he did to us in the playoffs
Oh, you don't like
before.
LeBron because of what he did to you in the
That's
playoffs.
why I said the original Josiah before you guys got swept.
We are 2-12 against LeBron in the playoffs, and
You think we're any better?
the
Dude,
and somehow the Cavs managed to go 8-10 in the playoffs last year, excluding games against us. If that doesn't tell you how morally dismantled we were by game one and how totally cowed we were going in, I don't know what to tell you.
I guess I'll give it to you because there was another team that swept the Raptors in the playoffs just a few years ago. If you'll remember.
And moving on, let's talk about.
Knicks Gaming
I
66, Pistons GT 75.
mean, the Knicks can just have fun. I like the Knicks just having fun. And as you aptly commented on Twitter, it is a fairly solid move by Adam to just hit every three ever for the rest of his life ever.
Yeah, he's greening everything now, which is good for him because they
Best
need
point
that
guard in the
shooting.
league.
Uh,
No, no, still no.
no, he's good though. He's
He's
good now
good.
though,
He's
especially
gonna
post
make
patch.
he's gonna make an appearance in my player power rankings. I can tell you that much.
Oh wow,
Oh,
can't wait to read that one. But maybe a bit of a ticket hangover for Knicks Gaming. It's not like
yeah,
they're trying to come out and just mess around.
right. No, but you know what? They will take it every day of the week.
Yeah, their spot is secured. Speaking of spots, very much not secured. Kingsguard Gaming 72, Celtics crossover 77.
The Celtics really, really needed this one,
Yes, they did.
and they kind of lucky they won in the end.
They are very lucky.
And it's another tough loss for the Kings, who are
Yep.
still miles ahead of where they were a couple weeks ago. But
Yeah. Kings snatching defeat from the jaws
tough,
of victory.
right? Exactly.
Some big threes at the end. They
Yeah,
definitely should have won this one.
yeah. Out there, the Celtics have some really good plays and some really good players.
Yes, which is why I mean they were lucky to win this one, like you said. 6-5 now, sitting at 7th, which is currently a playoff spot. So
Got to hang on. Oh, quick plug your profile of that very Celtics team's coach, Rico.
yeah,
Go check it
Rico,
out.
my man Rico, wrote a
Indeed.
profile on him. He was gracious enough to offer an interview, and so check it out, dimer2k.com. I'm gonna put it at the top of the website soon enough, so go check it out. Pretty cool read. I had a good time writing it. Moving on, Grizz Gaming 84, Mavs Gaming 77. We already talked about this one, but go ahead.
No, I think I have a say. All right, authentic. I'm just gonna tip my cap and and doff it, and that's all I'm gonna say about this one that I haven't already said.
I thought you wouldn't be able to help yourself and
Oh,
just
I
start.
I have thrown some shades. I shall throw no more
Okay.
yet.
Anyway, I like this Grizz Gaming team, man. I mean, how can you not like them?
Happy
Fighting back after
fighting back.
just all the crap they took from the community
Yeah,
after going 0-4 in the tip off.
yeah.
They've really fought. So, Pacers Gaming 66, Magic Gaming 69.
Magic got another big win. Shout out to them. Um, was this yeah, Nacho Trainer back into the lineup.
I
Um,
I don't
and
know why, but
and I mean, it worked. It worked.
yeah,
I mean, they ran some nice plays with him. And I think they, with Nacho running the shot creating slasher, they sort of join the Pistons as the two teams who run an offense and then sort of have the shot creating slasher on the side as sort of like a backup option, which I think is a very viable way to go about things, and it's kind of good.
Are those the only two teams? I felt like maybe there's.
With
Yeah, I don't.
with
I
that
guess you're
sort of
right.
setup, I mean the Bucks have done it occasionally,
Yeah.
but they're
No.
they're they're the only ones who really prioritize other things.
Yeah. No, you're right. But Magic Gaming is 6-4.
Kudos, it's
Three
all
win.
King Cam. He's been
He's a great
terrific.
player, and
He was the
he's
star.
adding another chain. So
Good.
he's gonna hurt his neck. Something serious if they keep winning. Raptors uprising 80, Bucks Gaming 64.
Great job by the Raptors. Still staying alive. They're 4-1 in the last 5 games regular season play after that brutal opening schedule. Interesting lineup. All Hail Trey is also a very, very versatile player. They sat to Toxes for this one. But, you know, Josh and Trey have a really great chemistry on the pick and pop. The Raptors are a good team, man. The Raptors are a good team.
Yeah, the big difference I think lately has been the Raptors' three-point shooting, which has really picked up.
Yeah,
And
they rain fire.
this was the dagger in Bucks gaming season, unfortunately for them.
No, no, it isn't.
Uh,
I've run the numbers. They're not out of it.
realistically,
Realistically, they're not out of it, especially since the Mavericks have fallen off a cliff.
Josiah,
I'm
they're out
looking
of
at the
it.
numbers. I'm looking at the
I don't
numbers.
care what your numbers say.
I am
Bucks
looking
gaming is
at
not making the
the
playoffs.
number. I would be surprised if Bucks Gaming made the playoffs. I would be shocked if they made the playoffs. But they are the last team that's still kind of in it.
Run a million simulations with your fancy numbers and tell me if they ever make it.
I have not run a million yet, but only because my computer would probably crash. They can make it. They could be 1 game back next week.
They won't make it.
They're not going to make it yet, but they could make it.
They won't make it. Jazz Gaming 60, Pacers Gaming 76.
Boy, have the Jazz fallen off a cliff. But more importantly, in this one, Shockey, phenomenal. Such an impressive debut. The Pacers integrated him perfectly. He had some nerves early on, but he really just fit into the system well. A great paint presence as well. And kudos to them. What happened to the Jazz?
What the hell happened to the Jazz? They were another team that was 5-2. They've now lost 3 in a row, and they've tried the same thing as the Mavs, which I know you love, putting their point guard at the shot creating slasher,
Yeah,
which
and has that worked out for him?
I will say in their defense, it makes a little more sense in this situation just
Yeah, you're
because
right. You're right.
Compete played on a 6'10" point forward in Pro Am this year. So he's run it. He was the third overall pick for that reason, for the
But
most part,
but
probably.
their offense needs more diversity. They need to diversify what they run because, frankly, Shockey pretty much took away the drive and kick to Mr. Slaughter that was so important in the Jazz's offense. That's completely gone. Um, and they need to get back on that. They need to hit some shots. Man, 60 points.
Yeah, get Smooth back in the lineup. Get back to what was working.
I mean, he came
And
back, but he
yeah,
wasn't featured at all.
yeah. Final game of the week: Bucks Gaming 84, Wizards District 83.
This is going to be the third or fourth time a team has failed to foul in the last few seconds, and it's cost them a win. And this was a big game for the Wizards because, they're on the outside looking in, and there's a lot of points in this game. The Bucks diversified their offense a bit. STL has been great at center. Um, you talk to me about the Wizards. What's going on there?
I don't know, man. I ragged on STL early in the season. I didn't think he was quite effective enough, but 30 points at center, pretty dang impressive. And I was real surprised to see that this happened. I think everyone was surprised to see that Boo scoring 40 points for the Wizards, and the Wizards scoring 83 wasn't enough to beat the Bucks.
Yeah, this was a crazy outburst, an absolutely crazy outburst. But what helps? Getting
What?
rebounds and getting possessions when you're going up against slashing stretch fives. that's a matchup you can really exploit. And possessions are very, very important.
Speaking of fouling, I noticed in the Celtics Kingsguard game where the Celtics, the Kings needed a three late in overtime, I believe, and the Celtics fouled them just straight up so that they could only get 2 points on that possession. First time I think we've seen that
Smart,
in the NBA 2K League. It is really smart. And
realistic.
well, the thing is, it doesn't even happen that much in the NBA, I don't think.
Right. But
Like even
it
the
definitely
NBA lags
happens.
behind.
It
Yeah,
certainly happens. So
it does,
it makes a lot
but
of sense.
not as much as it should in the NBA. And like I said, I think that's the first time we've seen that in the
Yeah,
2K
I
League.
think so. I mean, well, you wouldn't have seen it before the patch because the free throw ace badge was so pervasive, but
Right.
it definitely
Yeah,
makes sense.
that's a fair point. But yeah, that was something that jumped out at me, and I was like, oh, I was pleasantly surprised. I don't know whose call that was, whether it was my friend Rico or one of the players, but good on them. Maybe we'll start seeing more of that. Josiah, which team were you most impressed with in Week 9?
Which team was I most impressed with? Grizz. Put the hammer down, stayed in the playoff race, got a big win, got a big moral win too.
Yeah, there are a lot of teams you could pick in this one. To get away from the Grizz, Magic Gaming 6-4 now, beating a tough Pacers Gaming team, and 3 game win streak for them now, and they are 6th in the league right now, and currently in the playoffs. So
Yeah, it's
good
good.
for them.
They're not out of the woods yet by any stretch of the imagination,
Oh no, no.
but yeah, no, full kudos to them.
And Josiah, which team were you most disappointed with? I already know who you're gonna pick.
Yeah, there's not a question in my mind. But I will, besides for the Mavs, I will spotlight, just late game failures to execute from the Warriors and from the Wizards. You got to tighten that stuff up if you want to be a playoff contender, especially the Wizards. You can't fail to execute like that in crunch time. But yeah, there's no question. The Mavs, you can't lose 2 games to teams you feel like you can either beat or compete with. They got hammered by the Blazers in the second game. It may have been a hangover from feeling embarrassed for losing to the Grizz, but you know what? You're tied with the Grizz now. Can't be embarrassed about losing to a team on your level.
Yeah, to pick someone different, I'll say the Jazz. Uh, they need some wins now. They were a team that I probably said at one point was, maybe a potential title contender, and they're now 5-5 and in ninth place after 3 straight losses. So not a great week for them. Let's Josiah, do you want to talk about whether it's time for 76ers gaming to panic?
I don't think it's time for them to hit the full on panic button because they're still lucky enough to be in the playoffs. But look, they're going up against Grizz Gaming next week, and we know the Grizz Gaming are a capable team who can win games. And I think that if the 76ers can't dictate the pace of the game and style of the game, and in consequence lose, then they should hit the panic button, absolutely. Because 7-5, you're not guaranteed a playoff spot anymore. Right now we're pretty comfortable saying that they're in the playoffs, but they're not. They're not locked in, especially if they lose next week, because after that they got the Pistons. Right, the Pistons are a darn good team, and then they have the Jazz, who aren't as good, but may well be fighting for their lives. Um, so yeah, you gotta get back on track next week. But other than that, you don't have to hit the absolute panic button yet.
I don't know, man. It's just looking at the body language of that team in the first quarter. Man, they can't be too confident right now. And I said last week that I don't think they should panic because like it it seems like this patch would have been built for them with all the increased shooting, but we just haven't seen that come to fruition. And they got to be doubting themselves a little bit, Josiah, especially after watching their point guard Radiant go 2 for 11 and just look generally not like the guy that a lot of people were saying maybe should have gone first overall.
Yeah, no, I would not take Radiant first overall. I wouldn't have taken him first overall beforehand either. But maybe that's just me. But no, I wouldn't have taken him first overall. Yeah, it's tough to say that. I still don't think they should totally panic yet. But if you do panic, give T Freshy a start. You know, put him maybe at power
Ooh,
forward, put Steez at center, Feast at small forward. I would sit Nudini over ZDS. Um, yeah,
really?
you know, no,
Surprised by that
if you're gonna
because
run a pure sharp, I would rather have ZDS at the pure sharp.
I mean, I don't know, maybe, but I think Nudini has been clearly outplaying ZDS lately.
I mean, I guess you could also put Feast Feast at shooting guard. Feast is versatile. I think he's played there before.
Yeah, I like you said though, it only takes one loss, and I haven't looked at the schedule. I don't know if Heatcheck and Magic play each other, but if both those teams,
And Wizards play each other next week. That's
that's
a
that's a big
huge
one.
one.
But if Heatcheck and Magic win next week and the 76ers lose and the Celtics win, we could be seeing 76ers at 7th
Yeah,
place
hey,
in the
you
standings.
know the Magic are playing next.
Who's
The
that?
Mavs.
Ooh,
Yeah, that's gonna get crazy.
two teams that you hate. No, I'm joking. You
I
don't
don't
hate
hate the Magic. I don't,
them.
I don't hate the Magic.
I only said that because at
Yeah,
two separate points in
that's
the
true.
season, you said you weren't sold on either of those teams.
I'm rolling with my non-sold still. What even was that sentence? I'm still yeah. I think the current team who I am not sold upon are the team upon which I will continue to not be sold per se
Well put.
or something.
Let's talk about the standings though, because I mean, I guess week 9 cleared things up a little bit, and we're now seeing some surprise teams outside the playoff picture. I mean, who do you so compare what you thought after the ticket to what you thought after week 9? Are there teams that you didn't think were going to make it that you think might make it now, or vice versa?
That's a good question. I might be more skeptical about the Wizards at this point. You know, they're 5-5. They're in eighth. But you know, I don't like them more than any of the teams above them right now. Um, you know, I expect the Celtics to make the playoffs. Um,
Wow.
that that's the team I'm more. But look, the Jazz have been fading. All right, so I think I'm more confident about the Raptors now than I was after the ticket because you know they played really well in the regular season. They're back in the thick of things, only one game out of a spot. They've been playing really well, so I think yeah, I'd say the Raptors probably have a better shot now than they did coming out of the ticket.
Yeah, I'd say so. I mean, the Grizz look pretty good, so they might have. I think they do have an outside shot at it. I think their schedule isn't too kind to them. Maybe I'm remembering that wrong, but
They've got the 76ers. They have got the Raptors. That's going to be a very playoff implication heavy game. And then
yes,
in they've got the Heat Check Gaming in
yeah. So not too kind of a schedule.
not at all kind, yeah.
And I think I saw Adam Rubin, the Pistons manager, tweet something like 9-5 is like the threshold for a guaranteed playoff spot, and at 8-6 is where tiebreakers are probably gonna start coming into effect. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, that sounds pretty good to me. And can the league put out the tiebreakers too? You know, uh,
That would be very helpful,
that would kind of help a lot. Like we got to prepare.
especially you know, for I guess I don't know. The the NBA has had its fair share of accusations of rigging. You don't want to put your tiebreakers out the week of,
Right, right. You're
and
right.
suddenly it looks like it
Yeah,
favors a certain team, you know?
right. You don't want to say, oh, record in tournaments, which it very well might be, because then you know who's doing well in that one, and you know who's not doing well in that one. That would be Grizz Gaming. Um,
Yes.
but
Celtics would be very helped
yeah,
by that.
yeah. Well,
So, yeah, I didn't even realize they didn't have those out yet. So, what?
no, we don't know. We
Uh,
don't know how anything individual player awards are going to be decided. We don't know tiebreakers.
yeah. Well, I mean,
Frankly, we didn't really know seeding tiebreakers for the ticket until I asked it in the Twitch chat.
yeah,
So yeah,
yeah. They need to. I don't know. They need to put someone on. Getting all that information out.
yeah.
But maybe it is Jonathan Raber who decides the MVP.
It better not be. No offense. No offense. I think this should be either the league's decision, or they should do it like the NBA, and it should be have writers chime in.
I mean, how many
Plus
writers
writers.
are there though?
No, I think you discriminate based on site. Like, you can't look if you start up your own blog about the league 1 week before the ballot goes out, you shouldn't be on the ballot. You shouldn't
Probably
be
not.
getting a ballot. But
No, probably not.
but I don't know. I don't know.
We'll see how that
We'll see how
goes.
that goes. Indeed.
Mr. Raber, I would like to petition that you put Authentic African
Yes.
in your MVP discussion. I'm not saying Authentic African should win it,
No, not necessarily.
but I think it's a crime for Dimes to be in the top 10 but not Authentic African at this point, and
Absolutely.
not trying to say Dimes is a bad player
Absolutely.
and shouldn't be in the top 10 even. But
Dimes ain't
if
guarded him.
if Dimes is there, Authentic African should be.
He ain't guarded him. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying. Yeah.
Wow. Real harsh words tonight from Josiah on the number one overall
I'm
pick.
tired. I'm cranky. I'm hungry. All these factors combined.
Yeah, that's what they all say. But I don't know. It last 3 weeks, man. It's gonna be real interesting. You gotta say.
Yep.
I can't wait to see how everything unfolds.
Me too.
Anything else on your mind tonight, Josiah?
Check out the, what are they calling it? The NBA 2K League Showcase, which is designed to showcase
Yeah.
who exactly? Robert
Uh
Ory, Nick the Bulls
yeah.
fan. I would love to have met Robert Ory, but that's not gonna happen.
No, it's not.
Yeah, tune into that Thursday night. Don't miss it. I guess.
Yeah, it should be
Watch
interesting,
Dirk.
I guess.
Hopefully Dirk should be in there.
Watch.
Watch Dirk. Yeah, let
Yeah.
Dirk play.
Free Dirk.
Free Dirk.
Free Dirk. Well, it turns out Walnut, I guess, is going to be on the analyst desk. So,
That will be hilarious.
yeah, that should be fun. And we'll actually get to hear him when he has his voice for once
Yeah,
on the
a
desk.
rare moment. 16 influencers. All right.
Yeah, well,
You know,
gotta get the word out.
gotta get the word out.
Bring in some more fans. I guess, is that it for tonight?
We gone long. We went long.
We have gone long.
Yeah,
This is a long one.
let the people go.
All right. Josiah, where can the people find you and all of your content?
You can find me on Operation Sports You can find me on TSN, article going up Monday. If this podcast goes up, I don't know, whatever. You can find me on Twitter at AJ113 underscore OS. I try and post like plays that teams run to show that there's hope for teams who don't want to run a 5 out.
It's interesting.
Thank you.
It's interesting to see
Thank you.
all the different plays and
There
sets.
there are some good ones out there. There's some really good ones out there. Yeah, that's basically where you can find me. I don't think there's anywhere else.
If you want to follow me on Twitter, at Will Beverina, Beverina. I run Dimer2K.com, where I write about the NBA 2K League and do some other things on there. But if you didn't know, I have a full-time job now, so I'm still trying to figure out exactly what I'm doing with Dimer. So if you want to follow Dimer, at Dimer2K, and check out my Rico profile. It's a pretty good one, I guess. It's pretty cool. Rico's an interesting guy, so definitely go read it. All right, well, I guess that's it for tonight, everyone. Once again, thank you for listening. All the support, always appreciated, no matter how long you listen to this podcast for. Hopefully, we're on iTunes. Hopefully, we're on something else. But we'll see. All right. Goodbye, everyone.